So without further ado, if I could maybe ask George from Applecross to kick off and to share with us what's happening in Applecross in terms of community broadband.
So thanks very much, Sandra. Good afternoon. My name is George Graham. I'm the Community Broadband Officer for Applecross Community Company. Applecross, as some of you know, it's a very remote peninsula in the North West Highlands. It's the nearest thing that you can get to being on an island while still being on the mainland. To get there, you've either got to drive over 2,000 feet over the Bialach, the famous Pass of the Cattle, or you have to drive way around the north coast of the peninsula, back out through the wilds and back down. It's about 29,000 hectares, rough ground, mountains, moors, and made up of about 15 different townships scattered around. It's not a single village like a lot of the other places that we might be dealing with. So we have 15 small townships scattered around the coast of this peninsula. We've got around about 200 permanent residents, but that goes up in the summer again to as many as 900 people on the peninsula at any given time. So in our planning, we have to plan not just for permanent residents, but we have to plan for other users, holidaymakers, visitors, whatever. We've got the usual problems facing the West Highlands and most small villages. We've got a falling school roll, currently only around 10 in the local primary. Aging population, we've got young people moving away because we can't keep good quality jobs in the area. We don't have any permanent medical cover at the moment. All of these things we see broadband as going part way to addressing. We were talking to a couple of doctors who were visiting the place. They were looking at the possibility of applying for the post. The second question after, can we get a house, was, is there decent broadband? We had to answer no. We've got one general store and post office. We've got main employers are seasonal. We've got a hotel, a campsite. We've got a couple of restaurants. A number of individuals do distance work already. We've got somebody who does proofreading for a London publishing house. We've got someone else who actually does all the billing for a Chicago hospital. They rely on a broadband connection already. We'd like more people to be able to do that from our community, to be able to work at a distance. But at the moment, we're served by BT. Households to the south of the peninsula are served by BT, actually. To the north of the peninsula, they're not. We average less than 0.5 of a meg. Barely, you can barely call it broadband. It's in and out all day. Upload isn't worth talking about. We can't upload any sizable file. It takes you 20 minutes and your connection will fail at some point in that. So we're kind of fed up with that. We decided we wanted to take things into our own hands. So taking a cue from Rum and Egg, we decided that bringing in faster broadband by wireless connection from Sky was the way to go. So luckily we have a local development officer, Alison MacLeod, who applied for a big lottery fund Village SOS grant last year. And we won the money to fund a pilot study. So we wanted to check the viability with the idea of bringing it in by wireless broadband over the sea from Skye, about 14 kilometres in a straight line. It seemed good. Would it actually work? So we began speaking with Ian Bolas and Simon Helliwell from who were involved with the Rum and Egg projects, and they helped us to set up this initial pilot. So the initial pilot took it in from Skye, took it to a hill above Applecross, and then it beamed it out locally, distributed it locally to, I think it was 9 local homes and businesses for a period of 6 months. The results have been pretty promising. A number of lessons, more importantly, have been learned. We've got speeds, on the trial project, we had speeds 10 to 14 times faster than we were used to, which is pretty impressive. It's not as good as we can get. It's not as good as it's going to be, but it's something, at least. It's quite impressive. Equipment reliability, it was good. We had a lightning strike on one thing, put it out for quite a while. We didn't have the money to replace that piece straight away. It was out for a couple of weeks. Learnt our lessons there. We do realise, though, that the main lesson is that we need to build in resilience to it and redundancy to it. So instead of just having a single feed in, we're looking at now having 2 feeds from different areas coming in and designing the system around about bouncing it backwards and forwards so that if one feed goes out, we can just switch to the other one and bounce it backwards. The fifth system in the south of the peninsula is going to be fairly straightforward. That's where most of the population is. But those who aren't served at all in the north of the peninsula, That's a little bit more problematic. We're actually having to put relays out on some of the distant islands. We're having to put them on Rassi and Rona, and we're having to zigzag it from the mainland back out to the island, onto the mainland again, and around, and eventually all the way around to Torridon, if you know that area. At the moment, they rely on dial-up. So while we're complaining about 0.5 of a meg, they have no internet to speak of. So it's going to be quite an eye-opener for them when they actually get it. So anyway, all the results of the pilot suggest the scheme is strongly viable, and on the strength of that, Alison went back to Village SOS and got some more funds from them to roll out a full system. We've also had a lot of support from CBS, and we're hoping that there's going to be further support in making sure that this system is as reliable and works as well as it possibly can. We're in the next phase now. We're rolling out to make the first connections fairly shortly. We're in the process of signing up subscribers. We're recruiting local people to train as installers, and we're getting all of the equipment and the system list ready for purchase. We're pretty much, in the next 2 months, we will begin to make the next connections. And I just heard today that we've had 2 new lines already installed in Portree, ready to be switched on. So we're probably a little further than most of the communities that are here already. That's about it from me. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, George. It sounds like Alison's a person to speak to in terms of accessing funding. Any questions for George?
It's Alistair Fleming from Badenoch Broadband. What sort of backhaul capacity have you got for your subscribers, and what is it now, and what are you estimating to get to?
At the moment, for 40 subscribers, we're putting in 3 lines. We're going to balance them rather than bond them. Where eventually the various exchanges that we're using are meant to be being upgraded as well in the fairly near future, I think in the next 12 to 18 months. So that's going to help an awful lot when they go to, well, hopefully 100 megs, that's what they promise. Right. But it's 3 lines per 40 at the moment.
Right, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, George. You're
Thank you very much.
Sit down.